So today we want to talk a little bit about the importance of the team in entrepreneurship or in business in general. I'm not sure if you know, but how many startups do you think fail because of an insufficient or not well-balanced team? In reality, every second to every third startup fails only because of not having the right team in place. I once was working for a boss in the United States who said, Marcus, I really don't care what role your team is playing. I only care who is your team. I want to know who's on the bus. I don't care about which seat each person has on the bus. What does that mean for a startup in specific? It means that at the end, the importance of the team is very high up when you start to think about entrepreneurship. I would like to give an example which I have experienced recently with a startup here in Chile, where I was very convinced that this startup will have a big success in the market of agriculture where they are playing. And in reality, at the end, they nearly failed because they did not define what the roles of the team are, what the goals are, what the common goals they have. And so at the end, we had to work hard for about 3 months to realign the team, to ensure that everybody is back on board. And today they are running at high speed. So what is so important about the team? Think about your goals. When you think about your goals, I'm talking about not only the business goals, but I'm talking about your personal goals. If you as a founder and your co-founder have two completely different goals, you at the end will fail because you are not aligned. One might want to build a company for lifestyle. In lifestyle means that he wants to keep that company forever. And the other partner might have the goal to, at the end, sell the company as fast as possible. So if those goals are not aligned, you will fail. Another example is the knowledge. What knowledge do you bring into your startup? What knowledge does your partner or your partners or your team bring into the startup? So talking about roles, it is very important to understand what capability do you have in the team and what capability is missing. Then you need to see and think the missing pieces. Can we fill that? Can we learn it? Or do we need to take other people on board? Do we need to think about advisors? How can we fill those gaps which are not in the team? Another area to think about, do you share the same passion? Do you have a passion to be insecure? Because as an entrepreneur, you are insecure. You can fail. Are you prepared to fail? Is your entire team prepared to fail? Because as an entrepreneur, you know the probability to fail is very high. Also, from a risk perspective, are you prepared to take a risk, to get out of your comfort zone and work in areas which you have never touched before? Are you open for criticism? Are you willing to take critique, take constructive critique, reflect, stand back and learn from the feedback you hear? That does not always mean that the critique you get is right. But there's always something right in it. So you can learn from the feedback you receive. And you need to translate it into what does it mean for you as a founder, as an entrepreneur. There's another very critical area in a team. Teams can be big, teams can be small. But usually in a startup environment, entrepreneurship, the team is very small. When you have a small team, there's always one person to follow. If you are the founder, or if you are two founders, and you think just because you are the founders, you are the leader, you are wrong. One of your teammates, who you even hired, might be the leader. Because leading is about role modeling and not managing. This is something specifically in cultures like Latin America, you see as a big challenge, and when startups go from here, from Latin America into the world, they face major cultural challenges with this aspect of leadership versus management. Management at the end means directing people, telling them what to do, and controlling if they do the work. Leading means giving the space to evolve in their capabilities. Don't define too much what the exact role is, only the space they should be playing in and they can play in. And then be there and give instead of take. Which brings me to another point. If you identify you have gaps in your team and you're looking for help, don't think that getting help is taking. Getting help is giving. If you want to receive support, is it from advisors, from mentors, is it from angel investors or venture capitalists? Only if you are prepared to give, means to give either your experience, to share what exactly is happening in the company, the negatives specifically, but of course also the positives. Then the mentors, the angel investors, the advisors will see that you really want advice. And then they are willing to give. Without giving, from your side, you will not be able to receive. That is also true when you come into the environment of aligning your goals with your team or co-founder specifically. If you don't align on giving parts of your company, you will not be able to receive partners into the company. What does that mean? I'm also an angel investor in my function, and only if I see that the team is willing to give back in the sense of listening, in the sense of converting and taking the advice or the network which we provide as a real advice and convert it into real actions, then we feel comfortable in working with those teams. The same is of course also with equity. If you think that your company will have in the beginning you will have 100% of your company and at the end you still have 100% of your company, you will not win. In average, just to give you a number, in average, a startup founder at the end of the venture, at the end of the point of exit, has probably 10% of the company left. That does not mean you should give easily away shares of your company. But what I want to say is the culture of giving, no matter in which aspect, is very important. And it starts with you as a leader of the venture to give your time, your knowledge, to give your trust and your confidence into your team. If you miss on that specific point, you for sure will fail. What is the difference in culture? What is the difference in managing, in leading, when you see Latin America and you want to explore your business outside of Latin America? This one point, leading, which I stressed and I will stress again and again, is the most critical aspect to success. In this section, I want to talk a little bit about experience. We spoke about that your team should work well as a team, that there should be a leader who gives the space and the guidance. Now comes the point of experience. A team will only work successfully if it has the right experiences combined towards the goal which is established. So, for example, if you are working on an application, having a software engineer and having 3 of those does not help or is not enough from an experience perspective, because at the end you want to build a business. So you need to see, does your startup team have the right capabilities and experiences combined? Experiences, when you come just from universities, are of course limited. So what should you do when you're missing experience? When you're not missing capabilities, but experience. For example, experience how to lead a team, or experience going through startup venture, you either need to go and find a mentor who helps you, or even better, you find team members who bring that experience. What does experience mean? On the one hand, it helps you to avoid the big mistakes which lead to failure. On the other hand, it also leads to acceleration of your business. Because when you make mistakes, you have to repeat. The very famous lean startups cycle, which I honestly not a big fan of, is not really lean because it allows to make big mistakes. It speaks about pivoting. Pivoting means at the end moving from the 90 degrees angle to the 180 degrees angle. And this is lost time. So only if you combine in the beginning the right experience, that means experience in entrepreneurship, experience in the field of your specific startup, and of course experience in the capabilities, in the technologies which you are addressing, then you can start to think about a lean progression of your startup, because then you can avoid those big mistakes which lead to pivoting, because pivoting is the big missing, and only if you can avoid the big missing, you can accelerate. What is the alternative to pivoting is adapting. And this is the optimum when you identify you have missed a small area and you can adapt. And you can adapt until you are there. No startup will do exactly at the end what they went out to do. They have to adapt. But pivoting is loss of time and takes a big risk that your startup fails. So if you don't have the experience, you need to decide for yourself, is this startup venture for me just a hobby where I want to take time and learn with and at the end just have fun with? Then it's okay. Then you don't need to look for that experience. But in most cases, and that is the expectations we have, you want to accelerate your business as soon as possible to drive success. Success in the market, success for yourself, recognition for yourself, or success with an exit. And for that, and only that, you need the good combination of experience and capabilities. Once you have established experience and capabilities, once you understand the principle of leadership, then you are ready to go forward in your entrepreneurship or in your venture. What do you need to watch out then? From then on, you need to watch out that you are prepared constantly to adapt also with your team, and give your team the opportunity to learn. Is it learning experience inside the team, learning experience outside the team? For example, if you are not prepared at a certain point in time to think, instead of thinking about a startup, preparing your team to be a business, you will also fail. Why? Because at a certain point in time, latest when you start to interact with your clients, at that point in time, you need to have defined roles and responsibilities, because the client expects a concrete and very clear structure from a business partner. For example, who is going out to make the sale? Who is taking responsibility that the product you sell is produced? If you continue to work in an environment like the first moment of a startup where everybody does everything, you again are running the risk of failing in the market. So what I want to say with it, that as a startup, you have in the early stage, in the seed stage, in the founding stage, you have a very different team setup and team responsibility than in the progression of the startup. And with each step, you need to question, do I have the right team constitution? Do I have the right capabilities on the team? And what is missing to succeed in the next step of my venture? This is not different than when you want to finance your startup, because also financing the startup, you need the money for different parts or different areas in every step you progress. So coming back to the importance of team, I think that having the right people surrounding yourself as the founder or co-founder is absolutely substantial to succeed in a startup venture. Following, I want to talk through a few examples. One example I want to talk through is a company everybody knows, which is very big today, but once was a startup, which is Apple. Apple was founded by Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was a very charismatic leader. People followed him and they believed him, even if many things he said and did failed. But they followed him because he was charismatic, he was a leader, and he was able to surround himself with excellent type A. Type A means excellent people with excellent capabilities. And the moment Steve Jobs left Apple, Apple came into trouble, came into problems. Why was that? This charismatic leader was missing. This leader who was not directing and controlling, even though he was very fanatic, but this example in the front of the entire team was missing. So that is a good example why a leader is so critical for a startup, and not a manager, not someone who wants to control. So the first role a startup captain needs to think about is, am I a leader, or do I need to identify someone who is part of my team who can be the leader of the team? That's why you see very often that startup founders at the end up to be a COO or a CTO, and they bring on board someone who they call the CEO, because at the end, per definition, the CEO should be the leader of the team. Another example, an example which is an example here out of Chile, a startup which has received tremendous recognition in the news, in newspapers. What has happened there? The founder was treated so well by the environment. By the environment means by the accelerator they were in, by the news, by pitch competitions, by newspapers. Everywhere this startup was mentioned and more or less already celebrated as the next exit. What happened? There was the founder and there was a team. And the team worked very well with each other. They had excellent capabilities. They had exactly the constitution of needs when it came to the technical part of the business. The founder, however, was so captured in the glory, captured in being presented as the next exit of Chile, that there was a disconnect between what the team needed and what the leader thought he or herself needs for her life, for her goals. So the goals of the team with the founder were not aligned. These situations happen very often, are very regular, and they have opportunities to be resolved. But it takes a lot of self-criticism to go back and admit that I made mistakes, which is another attribute which I want to talk about as a very critical attribute for any founder and any team member in an entrepreneurship environment. Critique, what does critique mean? Critique never means that you are wrong. critique never means that you are a bad person. Critique only means that someone else has a different opinion about something you said. This person might be right, this person might be wrong, but the minimum what this person deserves is to be listened to. Why? Because this person has the guts to tell you. Many people will look at you, they see something, but they don't tell you. So, critique, a culture of open critique within the team, as well as for the team to listen to outside people, is very critical to success. In this specific case, which I mentioned, the leader took a long time to listen. But at the end, through continuous coaching and coaching on both sides, making the team understand that what happened was not on purpose or to hurt the team by the leader, and on the other hand, to also help the leader to understand what critique at the end means and how the critique can help to bring back the atmosphere, the culture, and the success which the team created, because the success, the recognition didn't come from the leader, came from the team. That is very critical, and this is a capability an entrepreneurship team needs to learn. Very often they need external help for that. That can be a mentor, that can be someone from the family, it can be a friend. But this element of critique is very critical to develop as a culture. To develop as a culture in the technical area, but specifically and very critically in the personal area. And you have to develop this, and you have to have this culture in all team members. If you have only one team member which is not willing to listen, one team member who does not accept critique, or one team member who is not prepared to give critique, then you're already at a point that you need to decide, is that person the right person on the bus or the wrong person? Even if it's the best programmer, one person which does not fit the team is what we call a cancer in the team, and can more or less bring a negative effect on the entire result of the team. This is true for two people, for a 2-people team, this is true for a 5-people team, and this is true for a team of 1,000. One person can impact 1,000 people if it's not aligned from a cultural perspective and from a goal perspective. Let's talk about goals. Goals are also important. Not goals to establish, to control, but to align on where you want to go, and this goal needs to be shared by everybody. Only if you're aligned with your team on the goals, then you are at the end on a track to success. Again, you can say, yeah, but now you're talking about goals. No, I'm talking about the team, because at the end, the team needs to establish those goals and needs to commit to those goals. So that's the other part, commitment. When you build a startup, you need a very strong commitment from everybody on the team. What does that mean, commitment? That you say what you do and that you do what you say. When you say, I want to join the team, but for the next 12 months, I cannot work more than 50%, then you say what you're going to do. But then you also have to work the 50%. You cannot work 25%. Every time when there's a team meeting, say, no, I cannot. And at the end, you cannot support the team. So this commitment to the team, to be part of it and to deliver what you committed to, is very critical. So taking this commitment from each member of the team from the early beginning, and define what is that commitment, what are the goals, and then also claim the commitment. And that is this part of critique again, that someone says, you know what, Marcus, you said you're going to do this, and now for the 3rd time you have not delivered. This is also a failure and a risk for an entrepreneurship team to fail. And it's interesting, as I speak about entrepreneurship teams, as you grow from entrepreneurship, from startup to bigger entrepreneurship, to PMO, or even to be a big company, the topics are repeating. It's only that the effect when you are very small, given you are only 2, 3, or 4 people, the effect is much bigger. And this is why investors have on their first topic of the list the team. Each experienced investor, if it's an angel investor or venture capital, are interviewing the teams to learn about the teams. And yesterday night, I was at an event from Chile Global Angels where I'm actively participating. And this event is always about startups presenting and one of the investors who has invested giving the reason why he invested or she invested. And every time, one of the 3 reasons is because of the team. If you don't have the team in place, you will fail. We spoke about capabilities, we spoke about leadership, we spoke about critique, open mind for critique. Another area to watch out very early on as you go into entrepreneurship, as you start to think about founding your startup or your venture, is do you have the diversity and you need to really serve the market you want to serve. What is diversity? Diversity is a mix of capabilities from a fact-based, from a technology-based perspective, but also diversity from a personality perspective. So let's first talk about the fact-based diversity. Let's take again, what is very popular, the application side. You want to develop an app. Usually what happens is that 2, 3 people have a great idea and they think they have the coolest idea in the world. They develop the application and then they think, okay, now we have the coolest thing in the world. Now I will go out to my client and ask them, according to the lean startup cycle, we'll go out and test it and ask my client if he likes it. And you go out and say, isn't it cool? And the client says, really cool. And then the startup captain comes home and says, my client loves what I do. I'm going to sell now. I'm going out. So then he goes out selling and nobody buys. Why? Because the diversity in the team was not given to have someone who really understands the client. What do I need to ask the client that he gives me real feedback? So I have nobody in the team who has the marketing or the commercial experience how to market a team. But before I market a team, I first need to ask the questions to my client. Ask the right questions to my client, because if I just ask, do you like my product, yes or no, he might say, yes, I like your product. But if you then ask, but what problem do I solve when I provide you this solution? And the client says, yeah, honestly, this is not a problem for me. Then you have a very different indicator. The client might love your product because it's cool, it looks nice, etc., but it's no use. Or he doesn't have the money to pay for it because the problem is not the priority problem in the company. So if you miss on that aspect of understanding what you need from a diversity perspective to enter your market, you're running a big risk to develop something which is not what the client or what the market needs. Giving you a live example. I have one of my clients has developed a medical device. And not only that he has developed it, he's even, from his profession, the one who's using it. Or he would be using it if he would not be the startup captain. So he thinks with this medical device, he will kill the market. He goes out, shows it to some friends who are also dentists, they find it cool. And then suddenly, he has to go to the United States because he recognizes the market in Chile is too small to have success with this product. And he goes out to the United States, and again, he asks a few dentists, and they say, it's really cool, fantastic. But what he had not considered, that in this market of medical devices, there are other rules which play. It's not about, do you really solve a problem one or two dentists have, but it's about what does the market, which is regulated by the healthcare system, need. Luckily, this startup captain was very open-minded, listened, and not only that he has a patent now on his first product, he has just applied for the second patent, which is to give this first product capabilities which will enable him to really go into the market. But this was only possible. Why? Because we gave him the mentorship to the site to fill the gap in diversity which he personally could not fill. So, which shows that at the end, just because you know the technology or because you have a profession which is very close to what you are inventing, that does not really mean that you automatically know how to have success with this product. And this is where the diversity plays a very big role, like the experience which we spoke before, like the practical knowledge, or the capabilities. The diversity in a team, is it with direct team members to look for the technical part, to look for the marketing part, for the commercial part, sometimes also the operational part. How do I produce my product? And then you say, yeah, I'll give that to someone else. Yeah, that's good. You can do that. You can outsource your manufacturing. But if you don't have anybody in your team for, let's take a product which needs high quality, who understands what it means to produce high quality, or what quality processes need to be in place to make sure that your third-party supplier really provides you what you have ordered, you will get a product, or you will come into the market with a product which will not meet the quality expectations of your client. But if you don't consider and think about what diversity, capability, expertise do I need in my team to bring this product to the market and to understand, and that's why it is important so early, to understand what is at the end the need which I'm serving. Do I serve a real need? Do I kill a real problem where the client is really willing to pay for? Then you will at the end not be successful. Client. I mentioned that the technology person usually does not come with the genes of understanding the clients. But if you don't really understand your clients, you cannot be successful. One of the first classes I give to the startups who are joining our program is asking the right questions and understanding your clients. So if you think about founding your own startup, if you don't bring someone on who is able to ask those questions or learn to ask the questions, who has that commercial fire to go out, who loves to talk to clients, who loves to respond to good emails and also to critical emails from clients and respond to them on time, you will not be successful with your startup. It's a very critical ingredient to have those capabilities and this diversity established as early as possible. Now I will say, yeah, but I don't have the money to pay all those people. Completely right. And that's what the essence of entrepreneurship is. You might have to combine those capabilities into people in the beginning. And therefore it is so critical that you know your own capabilities and your own passion as well as the one of your partner. And if you don't have those diversity elements included, you need to find other ways. You need to find passionate mentors who participate. You need to find accelerators who help you with that, to find those mentors. But don't think that only because you have a great idea, you as a person and you as a person have only the technical capabilities, you will win in the market. No startup has ever won in the market because they had a cool idea. So to wrap it up, and to avoid repeating everything, watch out for your team. Watch out for your diversity. Watch out for the culture you want to build in your team. And watch out that you always have to question in every single stage of your venture who is participating, who is contributing to the success of your startup. If you do that, if you have that open mind, if you have that open eye to always review if you have the right team and if you have the right people on board, I'm sure one big area of risk is taken out, and we as investors speak about de-risking. So when we want to invest, we want to see a team which we can say it's de-risking our investment. So if you have any questions about that, feel free. I'm also available on various parts of the web, and of course you can talk to your people at Brain UC, who will be happily involving me if you have any questions about this topic.